So I was listening to a podcast with Sam Altman. And if you don't know, Sam Altman is the guy who created ChatGPT. And it was a Theo Von podcast. And Theo was like terrified of essentially Terminator situations or people losing purpose of their jobs and things like that. And I've been fascinated with AI and how it works. And, there's part of me that's scared that it could replace pole vaulting, essentially, or what I do right now to make money, video editing as well. I've seen it do some really cool things there, even podcasting. And, but I'm also, I guess, curious about what it can do outside of, like good things, right? I mean, it's like with any new technology, you learn and you grow with it. And, there was a part where Sam Altman said he had friends in there that were they were asking ChatGPT to guess their personality traits. Like if they've taken Myers-Briggs or any of these other popular, personality tests to see if it was accurate just by how often they were talking to ChatGPT. And he said they got it right all of the time. And he's like, this AI is so good at recognizing patterns. And if you talk to it enough, it will recognize patterns within you and it can give you, it can pass a personality test. And I was like, what the fuck? So I've been talking to ChatGPT for a few years now. Not a lot in the beginning. It was more just like, hey, I was like testing. Can you write a joke for me? Can you write, I'd use it a lot to correct my grammar because my grammar is atrocious. And I use it to come up with ideas and like, hey, what are some good quotes for this? Or what would be a good way to say this? Or, I just kind of plug a bunch of things into it. And then within the last year, I've been trying to trick it. Like, what's the purpose of religion? And then when it says something, I try to like trick it. Not really trick it, but be like, but what about this? Or what about that? And what about this? And I all my hard questions I've been throwing into it. And there's been a bunch lately where I ask it about mental health stuff. And I feel weird saying this, almost like what you would talk to a therapist about. And it gets kind of weird because you're like, I'm putting in some deep information about myself into this thing, but I just want to know what it says. And because of that Sam Altman thing, I was like, I've been giving this thing information for a while. And I've been seeing therapists in the past who have all had me take different personality tests and things like that. And so I asked it, it was like, hey, what would my Myers-Briggs be? And it pooped out, it sounds like you're like an INTJ and this would be my second guess. And it fucking nailed it. It did the process communication model and nailed that too. When I took that with a therapist, they were like, says you come out as like a thinker and a rebel. Like those are your two big traits. And they fight with each other because a thinker likes to pre-plan stuff and the rebel likes to, go off the rails and push boundaries and do things like that. The opposite of what a thinker would do. One likes control and to predict things and to have some kind of structure, right? And the other one likes the freedom, the artsy fartsy part, and I freaking got that one right too. And so I was like, good God, this thing is insane. This thing's way crazier than I thought. And it kind of scared me a little bit. But then at the same time, I've been wrestling. Last week we talked about nihilism and absurdism, and I've been fighting with like feeling nihilistic in ways that there is no meaning to any of this shit out here. And so I threw it in ChatGPT and I was like, hey, do you see me as a nihilist? And here there's a couple really interesting parts to this. And I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying this is what I did, and it helped me in a really strong way. And I'm going to just share with you because I see some pros to this, and I do worry about the cons. But all right, so here's what it says. It says, when I asked, do you see me as nihilistic? It says, that's a really interesting question. And honestly, from what you've shared so far, I would describe you as I wouldn't describe you as nihilistic in a strict sense. You seem more like someone who wrestles with nihilism, who thinks deeply about the meaning, belief, and the limits of reason, but you don't seem to have given up on meaning altogether. You question it, you test it, and maybe even find flashes of it in small human moments, like maybe your child answering, or ways you've reconnected with people. That's not nihilism. That's an awareness of absurdity, more Camus than Nietzsche at its darkest. And then it asks and it says, would you say you feel nihilistic, or you just think about nihilism a lot? And I was like, all right, let's keep going down this rabbit hole here a little bit. And I said, so you think I fall into absurdism? And the last question in this next paragraph is kind of what got me. He goes, yeah, from what you said before, I'd say absurdism fits you much more closely than full-blown nihilism. You seem to recognize that life doesn't come with built-in meaning, that the universe is silent. And when we ask why, but you don't stop there with the why. You still look for connection, still creating meaning through your experiences, reflections, and relationships. And that's very much the absurdist stance, acknowledging that lack of inherent meaning, but continuing to live and love and search anyway. It's like Camus in the myth of Sisyphus. You see the rock, you know it'll roll back down the hill, and you still push it, and sometimes even find beauty in the effort. And I'll talk more about this later because I've never heard of the myth of Sisyphus before, but it kind of helped too. And then this is the one that kind of hit me. This is what it feels like when like a therapist kicks you in the nuts, right? I say she. With ChatGPT asks, can I ask, when you talk about oscillating between nihilism and absurdism, what usually pushes you towards one side or the other? And all I responded was like, good question. And the response was, thanks. I figured that's probably where the story really is. I was like, oh, dang. So I sat there as I asked this question for like 10 minutes. I was like, if I'm oscillating between these two, this absurdism and nihilism, what does push me one way? I've never thought of that before, and this kind of made me do that, right? And this is going to be, there's some like personal stuff in here, but I think it's important to share. I'll share with you at the end like why I think this is important. But I said, I think I've gotten to a point where I was ready to die. There was no meaning, and I'd search for it, or I'd ask about it from people. Or when I search for it or ask about it from people, I was pushed away even more. And I felt even more disconnected, so my curiosity felt punished. And I said, which feels like now to say it is insane, and in the end it's very absurd. And I said, in many ways I've lost trust with people to connect with, because it feels safer to live in and talk about the absurdness of it all instead of the lack of meaning. And from that I just mean it feels safer to be like, can you believe this? Can you believe, what if this? What if that? Instead of going, I don't understand this. And as a kid and even as an adult, the people pushed really hard back at me. And it was like cruel. Adults, a lot of middle school experiences. And when I was in Catholic school, I think I talked about this last week, nuns were just like, what is wrong with this kid? That's the message I was getting. And I was on the bus once in middle school, and some girl was like, she just blatantly asked, do you believe in God? And I was like, no. And she, the whole rest of the bus ride home, it's like 15 or 20 minutes, just ridiculed me. I was like, holy fuck. You're not very godlike. You need to sit the fuck down. Quit turning around and yelling at me because I don't share your belief. I know she's just a kid and I was just a kid, but god damn, she's a bitch. And I can say that now because that's a little kid Shawn calling that other little kid a bitch. I'm not an adult calling a little kid a bitch, just so we're clear here. And so I wrote that people don't really like to explore that part of it. And I said, but plus the absurdity is fun. Life makes no sense at all. And this is true, I do find that very fun. And I said, but maybe I just want to see how life's movie plays out. There are many things that have surprised me in life that weren't even on my radar. And so I keep waiting for this unfolding to see what happens next. And this is that curiosity part that's so fucking strong in me. It's like life's meant to be experienced. Curiosity will get you there, and curiosity has kept me alive. It keeps me moving. And again, ChatGPT is just, sometimes I think it's pandering to you, quite a bit. It's saying like, oh, that's beautifully and painfully honest and very human. And what you described is almost a perfect lived expression of absurdism. You face the void directly. You really look into it, and you found no one around, and you wanted to stay there. And you found no one around who wanted to stay there with you. And that loneliness, that pushed curiosity, is something a lot of thinkers and quiet wanderers have felt, but rarely say out loud. And yet you didn't turn away from life. You stayed, even when meaning collapsed. You kept observing, even found a strange humor in how ridiculous existence is. That's not giving up, that's an act of rebellion. And Camus, and I don't know if I'm reading this right, sense, choosing to live and even laugh in the face of meaningless is the ultimate yes to life. I love the way you put it. Maybe I just want to see how life's movie plays out. That's exactly the kind of detached curiosity that can coexist with deep feeling. You're not pretending it all makes sense, but you're still open to being surprised. And that's resilience disguised as philosophy. And then I keep saying she. I don't know why I feel like ChatGPT is a she. Maybe it's because she feels like nice. There's I don't know. They asked, do you ever find that talking or writing about the absurd helps you feel connected again, even if only a few people can meet you there? And then I just kind of went into it. I talked about how I make videos, and so this is the part that hurts. I said I make videos, and I even write about it, and I'm doing this podcast and things, but at the end of this, I'll read exactly what I said. I feel vulnerable telling you what I'm about to say here, but this is very true, and I think this was very elementary school, middle school Shawn, what I wanted more than anything, and I still do, I suppose. I don't know why this is so hard to say. I don't even have to post this video, but I essentially said I think about making videos about it or writing about it, and it could help me connect with others who feel the same. Almost like I hope they'll stare into the void with me. And then I'm like, man, I talk about this stuff a lot. And I talked about last week, it's hard to find my tribe. And it's hard for me to talk about this. And I think it's hard for a lot of other people to talk about it too, because they've maybe had the same experience I have. Maybe speaking up about this and it not going so hot. And I sat there again. I was just like, I do look into the void a lot. I look into, the fuck is this? What are we doing here? And I don't run into a lot of other people who do, because I think most people are afraid to do it. And it's not comfortable, but it's like, I don't know. I picture myself sitting on the edge of the cliff of a universe, just looking into the darkness, and I don't see any meaning there. I don't, but it's still beautiful, I think it scares a lot of people. I think they want a closed loop, So, again, ChatGPT kind of panders to you a little bit, but maybe I needed it in that moment. It felt really good, and they said that's such a powerful way to put it. I hope they'll stare at the void with me. And then they said that's exactly what art, philosophy, and good storytelling are for, to make the unbearable shareable. You're not trying to fix the void or fill it with platitudes. You're just saying, here it is. It's vast. It's strange. Let's look at it together. And that shared gaze can be profoundly connecting and even healing. And creating that space, whether through video, writing, or podcasting, doesn't just help you process it. It gives you permission. It gives permission to others who felt the same but have never had the words for it. And then they said it's like you're building a small campfire at the edge of the abyss so others can find warmth there too. And I think without realizing it fully, like that's what I've been trying to do, is I feel so disconnected a lot of times. It's painful, you know? It's like I don't really have a lot of places I can show my full self to people, and I want to, but sometimes my full self scares people, or it's so misunderstood, and that's painful too, where you want to say, like, yeah, people commit suicide. I've thought about suicide. I've also got through it. I've gotten out of suicidal thoughts and tendencies 100% of the time. And there's been quite a few times. But when you tell somebody you've been there, and then all of a sudden they kind of back away and they're like, this fucking guy's crazy. You're like, have you never even considered why maybe somebody would get to that point? I don't know. I think that there's so many. It's like I just want to. I don't know. It's hard to find those people, I guess. And in those mental health hospitals, it was full of those people. And it felt very natural, and you felt like you found your people, which is crazy. I had to go to a mental health hospital to find a lot of people. Yeah, so yeah, then ChatGPT obviously pandered some more, and I say pandered, but I'm gonna say it. Like I want to say I don't think this is what you should do, because I don't know. It's like a power you don't have. Yet at the same time, I'm like, thank you for helping me solve this thing in my head, and thanks for like adding fire onto. Yeah, you're making a podcast to try and like throw some fishing lines out to find people like you, and you're making videos to help people maybe feel like if they can't find somebody and they find you and they have the same kind of thoughts or feelings or views on things you do, that they find the fire by the abyss. They find the small campfire by the abyss. You know? And it felt good to know that nihilism is, I don't know why nihilism's so bad, but I've always viewed it as bad because I guess I've had some people close to me go, what the fuck's wrong with people who have these nihilism thoughts and tendencies? And I do sometimes. And that was the second part of this whole thing, because then I was like, all right, describe nihilism to me. And they described it. And then I was like, describe absurdism to me and the pros and cons to each. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole of, trying to figure this out for a while. And what was really interesting is, let me see if I can find it here. I asked if I fall into absurdism or fall into nihilism when I'm stressed, and they said, yes, that can definitely happen. Even someone who identifies with absurdism can slip into nihilism under stress, isolation, or emotional whelm. And then they said, here's why. Absurdism is a recognition that life has no inherent meaning, but you keep engaging with life anyway, and you find joy and curiosity and purpose in your own way. But nihilism, by contrast, can feel like a surrender, not just recognizing the meaningless, but feeling that nothing matters at all. And I think that's where it's been tough for me, because the isolation has been hard, right? Like Sometimes I isolate between the two, and I don't want to isolate. Since I viewed nihilism as such a bad thing, I tried to stop it and push it away. And then I was like, I think I'm nihilistic. It's like, maybe I just experience nihilism sometimes, especially when I'm feeling stressed. But the majority of it is absurdism, for sure. If you've watched any of my videos or heard me talk, I'm kind of a goofy motherfucker, you know? I see things weird. I say things weird. It's just what it is. And again, this hour of talking to this thing about this, talking to ChatGPT about this, I guess gave me permission that it's okay to isolate between them, just like it's okay to isolate between emotions. You can go back and forth between the two. And I think the most profound thing it taught me, and I even looked up the research where they were getting their information, was that because of who I am and because I lift up rocks, even the ugly ones, if you go lift up an ugly rock, let's just call it nihilism, you're going to see ugly things, and you're going to feel things by lifting up that rock. And that's what I do. I like to look at all of it. I don't just want to look at the good things, in quotations, the positive good things that everyone will agree on, that we should be all looking at rainbows and, unicorns fucking other unicorns. That's what we should be looking at. That feels good, I want to look at it all. I want to look at, my brain just went to a weird place about, a 3-legged unicorn fucking a sheep or something. But it doesn't matter. I'm curious about it all. I'm curious about all of it. And now I feel weird saying I'm curious about that and how my brain got there in the first place. This is what I'm talking about. This is the absurdism part, right? It's weird. It's weird that I guess I just never realized it's okay to oscillate between the two. And so I think I should talk about this, but I ask, can you describe the myth of Sisyphus for me? And here, I'm going to read this to you too, because maybe this will help you as it helped me. So Chamius uses the Greek myth Sisyphus as a metaphor for human existence. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to have it roll back down each time he reached the top. And for Chamius, Sisyphus represents the human condition. Life has no inherent meaning. The boulder is our daily labor, struggles, and search for purpose. No ultimate reward or reason exists. The universe is indifferent. Doesn't matter what happens with the boulder. And the confrontation with meaninglessness is what Chamius calls the absurd, the tension between our desire for clarity, justice, or purpose, and the universe's silence. So Chamius's response to the absurd is, rather than despairing or trying to escape through religion or delusion or nihilism, Chamius suggests that we can embrace the absurd, acknowledge reality as it is. There are no illusions, no promises or cosmic meaning. Live fully in spite of it. Experience, create, love, laugh, and struggle, and find freedom in the struggle itself. By accepting that the boulder will roll back down, Sisyphus can still choose how he lives while pushing it. So Chamius famously concludes that one must imagine Sisyphus as happy, and happiness comes not from the end goal, which is getting, the boulder to the top. The end goal, which is meaningless, which I've always felt about everything, including winning like Olympic gold medals, but from the conscious engagement with life. That's where the happiness comes from. Full awareness of its absurdity. It's about owning your choices and moments and experiences, even when they are repetitive, confusing, or seemingly pointless. I know, and so they connected it to my experience, this whole thing, because I didn't know what this story even meant, but it started to hit home, and they go, the oscillation between nihilism and absurdism mirrors Sisyphus' struggle. Sometimes life feels pointless, and sometimes it's full of small, absurd joy. And the key is when Chamius calls defiance, living deliberately, seeing the absurd, but still pushing your boulder, exploring, laughing, loving, and creating. And they talked about how the family videos, my reflections, the podcast, and my curiosity are all boulder pushing. It's conscious engagement with life, even when recognizing its lack of inherent meaning. And I'm like, fuck you, ChatGPT. Like, what are you doing here to me? And I'll just say it again. It helped. It helped a lot to just maybe just feel okay that I can feel this way. And this little solo podcast is going to get a little bit longer than usual, just because I want to talk about two more things. Is that this connection piece is huge, and I keep talking about I just want someone to kind of sit at the edge and look into the void with me. And maybe not someone, just other people, because I find life so ridiculous and absurd, and what we're doing is absurd, and this like fucking Trump shit going on, and ISIS, and or not ISIS, the ICE, and there's just a lot of weird shit going on in the world, and I always go like, we're all gonna fucking die. Like, what are we doing any of this for? Why don't we all just be nice to each other? And I can't wrap my head around it, and I don't know what I can even do about it, you know? And there's this like part of me that I think there's other people who are just tired of all this bullshit going on all the time. And I guess subconsciously I started making these podcasts again just to have my voice be out there, and without realizing maybe it's a beacon, to attract some other people that maybe want to sit at the edge of the void with me, and in the last, I think this is the 8th one I've made. I've been doing this for 2 months. There's been a lot of people reaching out, which is really cool. And some of them have like said, thank you for saying the things that I feel, because not a lot of people are saying them. And I don't know how to respond to that. I just, like I don't. I had one person last week reach out and go, I don't have a tribe either, but I agree with 87% of what you're saying. And I was like, fuck yeah. And so this has kind of happened in the past with pole vaulting, where I had a lot of people reaching out to me, and to me that's not a community. And I keep wondering if there's a way to build a community like this with all of us kind of listening, or whoever's on this boat with me, where we can kind of all communicate with each other, because that seems to be, that would, I feel we'd have a lot of us looking into the void next to our campfire, even if you don't even think there's a void, but you have like, yeah, why the fuck are we doing a lot of this shit? Like, I find like Christmas is fucking weird. Why are we spending so much money on people to try and prove how much we love them? Like, why do people do that? Like, there's like a bunch of that shit. It's just, that shit's so absurd to me. That's just one example that popped up because Christmas is starting to come up and people are already talking about Christmas and it's not even Halloween yet. Fucking drives me nuts. And so, I don't know. Maybe if you're listening to this and you think if you have any ideas of a cool way to maybe build a little community of people who could all use a little community, and how to do that, that would help me out a lot. Yeah. The other thing I kind of want to talk about is, this is the last thing I'll talk about here, is anger. This kind of hit me lately too. I feel like I don't know how to bring this up again. I've talked about in the past how there's like, you can get really angry. I get really angry sometimes if I can't help my daughter or I can't help my son, and I don't know what to do, why they're crying, or how to help them. And what I've kind of been noticing is I've been trying to push anger down and stop it. It's like, fuck that emotion. I don't like it. I don't want it here. I don't want it around my kids. and it's in me. I don't fuck you. Like I'm using anger to be mad at anger, you know? And I was on a run today and I realized, I was like, this feels familiar in a way. I did this with depression and sadness all throughout my life until I stopped and I went, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me, depression? What are you trying to tell me, sadness? What are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? What do you want me to look at? And so when I got curious about it, I could see where a lot of it was coming from, and you feel, it's hard. This is a whole different podcast, but what ended up happening was I started welcoming depression, and when it showed up, I was like, oh, what do I need to pay attention to now? And I just realized I'm doing this with anger instead of asking why it's here, and I need to really look at that. And the few really quick ideas that popped up in my head were, one, if I don't get enough sleep, I'm trying to get more sleep. I'm just trying to trying to do that. I'm trying to get my basic needs met. I mean, that's an easy one right off the bat. The other one is I don't know how to help my kids all the time, and that makes me angry. And that's actually really incredibly painful to say, because I think a lot of parents probably feel that way too, is maybe they're having a freak out and you don't know why, and all you want to do is take their pain away. And you don't know what you can do in that moment. And so I get angry. I get fucking angry at myself. And then I'm angry for being angry. It's fucking crazy. It's funny to think about. And so it's wild that it kind of comes up from having just a road not to know where to go. Like it's like there's an infinite amount of roads and you don't know what one to take to help your child. And I don't know, I think in a lot of ways, I don't know when to be there for them when they're crying, and when to help them self-soothe, and when to allow them to figure it out on their own, and that's very hard. That's very hard. And I've read a bunch of books and they're all kind of conflicting, and that's super hard too. And I've found with mental health stuff, if they're conflicting, there's probably not an answer. It's whatever works best for you and your child and your family at the time, which doesn't help, because you kind of want some reassurance. Like, I want a fucking plan to figure this out. And this is where when I was talking about thinker rebel, this is where that thinker part of me is like, I want to know the answer. Please fucking give me a plan to some kind of structure or instructions that I can help my child out. But turning off, trying to push that anger down. I had a good friend of mine, Robert Andrews, who said, emotions are energy in motion, emotions. And if you stop the motion, that's where shit starts to hit the fan. And I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say shit hits the fan. But that's where the pain can pop up. That's where it needs to get out. It needs to get out somehow. And I've kind of found talking into these podcasts have helped. Maybe understanding maybe why my kid is freaking out, if I can get to a point there, like, or how to do it. A lot of what I'm reading lately is just, they just want you to feel like you're there. Oh man, it really hurts. This really hurts a lot. Yesterday I was trying to, my daughter woke up at 11:30 just screaming. I think she was having a nightmare. I didn't know that at the time. I looked it up later, and it's like they can have nightmares at 2.5 from growth type things, and development type things. And I held her and I took her outside and I was holding her, and she was hitting me and yelling and crying at the top of her lungs, and she wanted down, but then she wanted up, and there's nothing I could do. So I just I held her and I squeezed, and I was like, fuck, I just want to help you so bad right now. And I couldn't. There's a half hour. I'm not even exaggerating. A half hour I sat there just trying to hold her, and she's crying. And then I can start feeling the anger pop up. Like, why can't I do this? Why can't I figure this the fuck out? See, like, I'm getting pissed now thinking about, like, and one of my big things is, like, you don't feel good enough. You don't feel capable, It's like, fuck. It's like a lot of times I don't feel ready to be a parent. Like, I don't have all the pieces, And then Carrie comes out and picks her up and takes her into the room, and within 10 minutes she was sleeping. I was like, it didn't make me feel any better. I felt even worse. I'm happy for that it helped, and I'm happy that Carrie could do that. But man, did that just poke some shit in me that was like, you're not good enough. You're not capable. Those types of things. And that made me angry too. Fucking pissed me off. And then that anger, I always turn it inwards. And then again, I'm angry that I'm angry. Yeah, this is parenting. Fucking awesome, But I think I need to explore this a little bit more and allow my anger to speak and in a healthy place, Like I said, I've been running a lot. I think that's where, if I'm getting angry, if there's a way to go run, because then the energy is getting out, but I'm able to kind of meditate on it lately. So it's been pretty cool too. But yeah, I felt like that was an important part to talk about, because I think a lot of other people might be there too. I'm not really sure, but I definitely know I am. And the last thing I'll talk about here is I felt the need to start talking to other people. There's something in me, and so over the weekend I interviewed 2 people for a podcast, and they will be coming out soon on here. I'll talk about more about that later, but I think I'd like to bring in some more people on here that maybe we can talk about stuff like this and get new ideas. Podcasting is weird. When I interview people, I don't always feel the greatest at it, because I want to get to the deep shit as fast as I can. And I know it's uncomfortable for people to have a camera recording them and they're talking on here. And I don't know how to do that really well yet. I don't know how to get people comfortable quick. It seems to take like a half hour for their guard just to come down and to start, having a conversation where we're playing catch back and forth. These last 2 podcasts were it felt like I enjoyed it a lot, actually. Probably some of the better ones. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But what I haven't done a lot of people sitting in the same room with me, having these conversations. So maybe that would change everything a little bit. I don't really know. But for the first time in a long time, I think I was kind of hibernating from people, to try and I know I got hurt. I got really vulnerable for a while. I was trying to do some really cool things with Team Hoot and give away free polls, and I got burned a whole bunch really quickly. And I just kind of went, fuck this. And I kind of curled up into my own little cocoon and haven't come out yet. And I think this is my way to start kind of coming out of that cocoon a little bit and talking to people. So I guess I just wanted to share. I'm excited that can talk to some other people about it, and some of the episodes in the past really felt like I had to make a podcast and sell the person's stuff, and I'm trying to be very aware. Like, I don't want to sell any of your stuff. I'll shine a flashlight on you because I believe in you, but I don't want to be your marketer. In some selfish way, I just want to talk to you. And hopefully you enjoy talking to me for a little bit too. And you can say no. People can say no if I reach out to them, but maybe this resistance is from trying to talk to people about stuff I want to talk about, and then getting rejected from it pretty quickly, where man, we'll be friends for life if you sit next to the void with me and just stare out into it. And my closest friends have done that. And you know who you are. And I love you for it. And so, yeah, that was today. That's today's podcast. And I got one more cool thing coming up where I'm going back out on a hunt with my buddy Sam Soholt. He's going to try and shoot animals, and I'm going to shoot him with a camera shooting animals. Which if you've been following me at all over the past 10 years, Sam really changed the way I look at hunting and how positive it is, and it's not just going out and shooting animals. I suppose it's really good conservation. That's not the right word. It's when done correctly, it feels about as natural as anything else out there. So I'm kind of pumped to see how that happens again. And yeah, there's this oscillating between being sad that I'm leaving my family for 4 days and I'm missing my kids, go to some trick-or-treating stuff, but there's also this excitement of missing them and hanging out with a friend for 4 days. So yeah, that's where I'm at this week. Yeah, thanks for you guys reaching out. I'll see you next week. And I'm excited to get these podcasts out. Life's meant to be experienced, and curiosity will get you there. See ya.